been with the hospital for over 30 years at this point. I lied. I'm going to take that back. My mom's only 25. She's gorgeous and hasn't aged a day. But in her time there, she's of course been, very steady, rock solid entity at the hospital, and has formed a great relationship with the other nurse managers and stuff. And as such, they all got together and they decided that they were going to adopt a charity. My mother and my father had been giving money to Sarah's house for quite some time and shopping for goods and taking it there and whatnot. And they, they were telling me about their involvement, and at the hospital said, well, the nurse managers are all going to get together. We're going to adopt this charity, and once a month, we're going to cycle around so everybody spreads it around, and it doesn't hurt anybody too bad, but we can do a lot of good with it. And I told my mom, I said, well, shoot, being back in the kitchen, I'm working with food distributors, I'm working with wholesalers, I'm getting great prices on stuff. Give me the money you're going to donate. I'll buy the food that they need at a wholesale cost and give it to them, so I can stretch that food dollar a lot farther. So now, instead of waiting on the guy down the street to give them a dozen eggs so that they might be able to make, a cake or something, or bread pudding, or, just something a little nicer, or even just to do a breakfast, when you're talking 500 families, a dozen eggs doesn't go real far. But, for less than $30, I can get 30 dozen eggs down there to them and, stretch that food budget. What's interesting most about Sarah's House is it's a great organization, but their food budget, their actual operational food budget is less than $1,000 a year. They rely heavily on donations. They have a lot of church groups and a lot of other people bring food in every day, and dinners and things like that. And so I kind of help fill in the gap by sourcing out the products from the wholesale side of things and getting them less expensively down there.
An inspirational story within an inspirational story. We're talking with Clodfelter, somebody who's gone through the devastation of multiple sclerosis, but he has not let that get him down. A positive aspect, positive reinforcement for everything he's done in life. We'll be back with more of his story when we return here on Straight Talk.
Good morning, I'm Al Ackerman with the latest Delmarva News headlines. The 2010 U.S. Census shows that there is an increase in East
228-9238 at 1-866-687-5483. You can also email the show straight.talk1240@live.com.
Yes, we're back on Straight Talk, and it seems that we're inundated every time you turn on TV. That's a negative aspect. You're getting a negative message. That's why we're quite pleased to have with us today Kurt Clodfelter with us, and a positive message about those things. Sometimes we think that factors in life will overcome us, but it's nice to know that the American spirit you really can't put that down. And that's really the story that you have there. A lot of people, and you probably know more so than I do, when they get that diagnosis, it's really hard, the mental aspects. And again, it's still that uncertainty. Even now, and it's been, 7 years since you've been diagnosed, even now, it's on a daily basis, as you said, it's still that uncertainty. Every morning when you wake up, what's going to happen, or how am I going to be affected this day?
No, it absolutely is. It's and it's tough. It's tough, especially for men. And I don't want to belittle, a woman who is facing this diagnosis. But the statistics come down to a third of all MS patients are men, 2/3 are women. And for a guy, again, it goes back to you don't look sick, and it's a matter of, I moved into my new house 2 years ago. Bought my first home. My wife and I are moving in, and I couldn't move a lot of stuff, and you always have people looking over your shoulder and telling you what you should or shouldn't be doing. And watching my grandmother, who used to ask me to go to get everything because of my brothers, I'm the more physical of the three, and that kind of thing. And all of a sudden, after diagnosis, my grandmother oftentimes will say, "Oh, well, hey, Carl, can you go get something out of the bed?" So I'll go get it, Grandma. It's no problem. And oh, no, I don't want you to have to go up and down those stairs. It's like, yeah. Heaven forbid I live.
It's got to be last night, 60 Minutes, and it was a replay of one. And I don't know how you react. They had a gentleman, and I'm using that term loosely, who I don't know if you've seen the show, but it was the episode where through stem cell research, him and his colleague that just happens to be over in a little place called Mexico, now have the cure. Not, and we now have the cure for MS, Lou Gehrig's disease, cancer, and the list goes on and on there. How do you react after you've seen, and you probably know quite a few people who've been through like you do, and again, it's got to be up and down. You know, some days you feel great, and you'll go through months where everything, and then another episode or something. How do you react to somebody who's coming on there and making these claims just to put, in this case, $125,000 apiece for people that he's taken through there?
You know, it's stem cell research it's so funny. I have for a long, long time. If you had asked my babysitter way back when, she'd have told you I'd have been a lawyer, not a chef, and that's merely because I try to look at all sides of everything, and I'll argue either side of a debate. You know, and as an American. You know, I will defend to my death your right to be wrong. You know, when it comes right down to it, stem cell research is one that really it strikes a number of very odd tones for me. At the Culinary Institute of America in Hyde Park, New York, the building that we used was actually an old Jesuit seminary, and so the Catholic influence on campus was very significant. My grandmother that taught me how to cook was Catholic. My dad's folks were Baptist. You know, so I had very polar opposite, you know, religious views growing up. In school, I definitely erred more on the side of Catholic. I was, you know, going to Mass 3 times a week. Started a Catholics at the Culinary group, you know, for you know, brotherhood and Bible study and that kind of thing. And since leaving school, you know, I would say it would be fair to say I'm somewhat of a lapsed Catholic. I mean, sure, I'm a knight with the Knights of Columbus, and you know, I still go to Mass and would identify myself as such if anybody was, you know, forced to pick. And the Catholic faith says that stem cell research is not okay. That's where all of a sudden I got a real problem to, you know, want to discuss something with the church here, you know, and have them explain to me why it's more godly that I, you know that someday I will be in a wheelchair, and whereas we can all say sooner or later we're all going to be in wheelchairs. We can pretty much guarantee my day is going to come sooner than most, and that doesn't seem totally fair. Funny enough, through my time at the nonprofit organization up in Baltimore, where I was teaching the culinary program, and trying to relate to my students, many of whom were older, in fact, all of them were older than me at the time, and had lived a much more difficult life, had chosen much more treacherous paths than I ever could, and so in trying to find a way to reach out to them, I, you know, took some time out of my schedule and became an ordained non-denominational Christian minister. The church that ordained me is one that's belief is basically do what you know to be right. You know, basically believing that, you know, the Lord would speak through you, and that's your conscience. You know, basically your conscience is evidence of God, and as such, you know, that's that little voice in the back of your head telling you to quit doing that stupid. You know, and that's what the message is: do what you know to be right. And I look at something like stem cell research and say, you know, my older brother, interestingly enough, has his PhD in genetic engineering. You know, so again, very close to my home all the way around here, and you know, I look at it, you know, from a strictly scientific standpoint and say, we have this technology. We know we can utilize this technology. We know that this technology could perhaps cure Alzheimer's, or at least more effectively treat it. And I've watched loved ones, you know, family and friends, you know, go through dementia, Alzheimer's, and these other things that could be halted, you know, if not reversed through this stem cell technology. And I just, it can't be the will of any higher authority, regardless of what you decide to name him, to make good people suffer like that. It can't be. And so, you know, I think it was wrong when the government cut spending, you know, for stem cells. I think it was wrong that they stopped it. I think it needs to be, you know, a choice. You know, if my religious convictions tell me that I, you know, or my ethical convictions tell me that I can't utilize stem cell research to benefit me, then I can choose to sit around and be handicapped. If, on the other hand, I choose to take advantage of that, then I should be allowed to do so. You know, and I should be allowed to heal myself as I see fit. and like I said, there's a million and a half reasons why this is or isn't happening, or why it